When was the last time you read a new novel and you felt so inspired by it that you had to go and look at the author's biography, and then you had to look at every book that she or he had written, and you wanted to read all of it? When was the last time? Do you remember that feeling? The last time I had this feeling was probably over 10 years ago when I came across this book, Libra by Don DeLillo. I was going through a phase where I was really into everything to do with JFK. So I loved Oliver Stone's great movie, JFK. And then I came around this book, read it. Within the first 3 pages, I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. I love his prose. I love the way he comments on culture, and his description is amazing. I thought I have to go and read everything. So within the space of about 9 months, I managed to read every single book of Don DeLillo that I could get. Now, last month, after the Booker Prize longlist, I felt like that about Lucy Ellmann and her previous 6 novels. Now, so this is why I'm doing this video, because I'm sure there are other people who still haven't come across this really important novelist. And if you like literary novels that are invigorating, different, and funny, I think you should get into Lucy Ellmann's work. So this is what this video is about. Have fun, because this is what Lucy Ellmann seems to be having in the last 25 years. So who is Lucy Ellmann? Well, Lucy Ellmann was born in October 1956 in Illinois, USA, but she moved to the UK when she was a teenager. Her mother is Mary Ellmann, a literary critic famous for a book, Thinking About Women, and her father is Richard Ellmann, a formidable biographer famous for that great biography about James Joyce and this one about Oscar Wilde. Lucy Ellmann was born under the sign of Libra. Some of the most successful novelists, screenwriters, and playwrights are Librans. For example, Graham Greene, John le Carré, Elmore Leonard, Harold Pinter, Terry Hayes, Anne Rice, Eleanor Catton. They're all Librans, and the list is long. And she was born on 18th of October, and she shares a birthday with Chuck Lorre, screenwriter and co-creator of Big Bang Theory, one of the funniest sitcoms of all time. And Graham Moore was also born on 18th of October. Another Libran, won an Oscar for writing the screenplay for The Imitation Game. And then he wrote that great novel, The Last Days of Night, about electricity. That's one of my favorite novels of the last 10 years. Amazing novel. So I want to ask you a really important question. Do you think you have to be of a certain age before you can write a successful novel? Well, Cyril Connolly, for example, an important writer, once said that nobody ever writes anything good until they're 30 years old. And there's Robert McKee, one of my favorite screenwriting and storytelling experts. He has said that a writer needs to be at least 30 years old before he or she can write a good screenplay or a TV show or a novel. And he has spoken at length about this. And I have to agree, because one of the reasons, because you need to have gained a lot of life experiences. There are exceptions. For example, Dickens was in his early 20s when he wrote the Pickwick Papers and Oliver Twist. And we got other examples like Martin Amis and Zadie Smith also wrote great early novels in their early 20s. But they are exceptions. But generally, you need to have a lot of life experience, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of pain. And then when you get to the age of 30, not only have you put most of those 10,000 Gladwellian hours, but you also have a lot of hunger and drive and belief, because life has given you so many blows and hurts and pains, or what Sir V.S. Naipaul would call the calvaries of life. And I think that's really important. So this is Lucy Ellmann's first novel, Sweet Desserts. She was 28 years old when she wrote this, and it's a slender novel. It's about 50,000 words long. Interestingly, we know what's going to happen to her in her evolution. This is the shortest novel of her output so far, and this was heavily acclaimed by so many interesting people. For example, Nick Hornby, who at the time, I think he used to write reviews before he became a successful novelist with novels like High Fidelity and that memoir Fever Pitch. And he saw this amazing thing very earlier on. And people like Craig Raine, the great poet and critic, and most importantly, Michiko Kakutani, who's not easy to please, the great critic at the New York Times. She had praised it for having a distinct voice. I know that's a cliche whenever you get a debut novelist, but I read a few pages of this and I know what Michiko Kakutani meant. And Clive James, one of my favorite reviewers as well, they praised it back in 1988. Sweet Desserts won the Guardian Fiction Prize back in 1988. In 1998, they stopped that prize, but a lot of important novelists have won that, including Neil Jordan, who went on to become a successful screenwriter with movies like The Crying Game and Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire, and Pat Barker and others have won this prize. So it's a really important prize. This is early enough, she had already started winning prizes, and this seems like a semi-autobiographical novel about two sisters, and there's a lot of sex in it. I think I haven't started reading it properly, but I can't wait to read this one. Back in 1988, when Lucy Ellmann first started, I was wondering who were the huge novelists of that time, because it would have been interesting to see how she would have felt. I'm not suggesting that she would have compared herself with other people, but I think every apprentice novelist looks up to those who are huge. And I just looked it up, and it turns out some of the biggest names in 1988 were, guess who? Margaret Atwood and Salman Rushdie. Would you believe that? Salman Rushdie had The Satanic Verses, which changed his life, and Margaret Atwood had Cat's Eye. And there are other novelists. Thomas Harris had Silence of the Lambs, and Alan Hollinghurst had his Swimming Pool Library. And there were many interesting novelists who are still huge. J.G. Ballard was quite big at the time as well, Umberto Eco. So she grew up, she got that breakthrough at quite an exciting time when you go back and look at it. And interestingly enough, I couldn't believe this. Don DeLillo published Libra in 1988. I didn't know that before I started making this video. That novel would have been in the same creative air as Lucy Ellmann's first novel. Isn't that amazing? Lucy Ellmann's second novel is Varying Degrees of Hopelessness. What a great title, right? She is brilliant at titles. And she was 35 years old when she published this one. And this is about 64,000 words. And this novel takes place in the arts world and academia of London. So far, again, another novel that was highly acclaimed. Do you like making lists? I love it. It's just a bad habit or a good habit. But guess what? Lucy Ellmann also loves it. This is her third novel, and this is where her habit or a feature starts to come and evolve, because she loves making lists. The other novelist who loves doing that is Charles Dickens. Martin Amis does that as well. And this is another novel where, again, highly acclaimed, and Michiko Kakutani loves Lucy Ellmann. So, if you know her, Michio Kakutani, she's very difficult to please, and she loves her, and there are many other critics are going wild about her, and already somebody's comparing her to Lawrence Stern and Montaigne. And Man o' Mango is about 75,000 words long, so this is so far the longest to date, and she's still with Bloomsbury. Lucy Ellmann's fourth novel is Dot in the Universe. I love that title, and this was published in 2003. So Iraq War, that was going on, and she was 47 years old at the time, and it's how many words? 70,000 words. And again, it has a really good epigraph from Byron. There is a pleasure in the pathless woods. There is a rapture on the lonely shore. I love it. And she's already started being unconventional. Right, so there are photos. How many novels that you read so far that's got photos and diagrams? Don't forget, we're not talking about fantasy novel. Right? This is literary novel. So this is all interesting. And again, critics just love her. And Julie Meyerson in The Guardian, way back in 2003, has written a really enthusiastic review. I used to read The Guardian religiously, and I used to buy the hard copy. Now I just read it online. And I just can't believe I forgot that, because I love Julie Meyerson's reviews and her novels. I'm just surprised that I'd forgotten about that. I'm sure I read it, because I read everything in The Guardian review. And so I hate myself for not discovering her earlier, but it's never too late. And Doctors and Nurses is Lucy Ellman's fifth novel. It was published in 2006, and she was 50 years old at the time, and it's about 72,000 words. One critic, Victoria Lane from the Daily Telegraph, described it as a melded spoof of medical romances and Jane Eyre. Good pitch, and already the word filthy keeps appearing. One critic described it as early Martin Amis with soul, but I'm not sure. Lucy Ellmann was 50 when she wrote this. Early Martin Amis was in his early 20s when he wrote novels like The Rachel Papers and Success. So I'm not sure. I have to read it and make up my own mind about that. Mimi was published in 2013, and she was 57 years old at the time. And this again got a lot of great reviews. And this was supposed to be a feminist novel, or a novel about feminism from the point of view of a man. A critic at the Sunday Telegraph described it as feels like Woody Allen reading Dr. Seuss. The writing is exquisite. And this is at a time when 50 Shades was huge. And somebody in the literary review of all the places said, a call to arm that is light-hearted and playful, but also practical, almost as much as a tract of female wish fulfillment as 50 Shades of Grey. Mimi is another novel where Lucy Ellmann shows how much she loves lists. And this one, there's something called the list of melancholy things. And now we come to Lucy Ellmann's seventh novel, Duck's Newburyport. This is the novel that has given her the biggest breakthrough. Longlisted for the Booker Prize, there's a good chance that it can get on the shortlist. This is a novel about a housewife in Ohio that spans over 1,020 pages, 426,000 words. It's a daring feat. To me, this is the definition of the term creative audacity. Lucy Ellmann was 63 years old when she wrote this. The reason why I mentioned all these ages is to do with the evolution. It's about putting in those 10,000 Gladwellian hours to master an art form. In Lucy Ellmann's case, is a literary novel, and she has done so many different things here. And already, from what I read of Sweet Desserts to this one, there has been a huge change. Now, are you tempted to read everything by Lucy Ellmann? Here's where I have to say something cautious. She's not a novelist who's going to please everyone, right? She is somebody, Alex Preston in The Guardian has said that only 2% of people who would come across this novel would end up liking it or admiring it. And I think I do know what he means. So I'm not recommending that you read any of these novels, because she's doing something different and daring and all that. So because of that, I don't want you to blame me that you start reading this and you think, oh, it's terrible or awful. This is going to be divisive, right? I love it. What I suggest is that you read the first few pages of Duck's Newburyport. It's a bit like trying a brand new chocolate, cookie, or a dessert. Alternatively, you can read one of the earlier novels because they are short. I'll be making more videos about this year's Booker Prize long list and also any other issues that come up from now until October. More importantly, there'll be other videos about novel writing, playwriting, and screenwriting, and about self-improvement. So if you're one of those people who's an apprentice screenwriter, novelist, or playwright who's passionate about reading and about self-improvement, do consider subscribing to my channel. I try to give value in terms of motivation, inspiration, education, and entertainment. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing.